Underlying love, beneath the surface it lies, in the whispers of secrets and unspoken ties, caught between the heart's gentle tug and the dance of romance, in the arms of love.
You are listening to Bradley Barkhurst's Underlying Love, a Worthington, Ohio mystery. Chapter 6. Part 2. Disturbance in the Grove. Finally, alone again, Elizabeth changed into practical pants and a shirt, pinning up her hair. No more distractions. Today, she would uncover new clues. She could feel it. The necklace from Aunt Gracie seemed to glow from where it lay on her dresser.
"Wish me luck, Gracie,"
Elizabeth whispered. She imagined her aunt waving encouragement as she set off purposefully into the heart of town. The main street bustled with churchgoers, socializing after services. Elizabeth nodded politely and waited on the village green, just outside of the Worthington Presbyterian Church. She hoped she might catch Samuel coming out from the Sunday service. Moments later, he appeared walking outside with his aunt and uncle, brow knitted in concern. He walked over towards Elizabeth.
"Elizabeth, has something happened?"
Asked Samuel. Elizabeth smiled reassuringly.
"Nothing new, but we need to meet with Betty and compare notes. Loose ends need to be tied up."
Samuel, looking concerned, then said,
"You remember my Uncle Howard and my Aunt Rosemary?"
"How do you do, Elizabeth? Wonderful to see you again,"
replied Uncle Howard.
"Good to see you again, sir."
Elizabeth nodded. Samuel visibly relaxed.
"Of course, let me fetch my coat and we'll go call on her."
Elizabeth waited impatiently as he hurried to his uncle's car. Their investigation had idled too long. New energy coursed through Elizabeth, propelling her forward. Betty's door swung open after a few brisk knocks.
"Well, it's about time you two. Here I was starting to think I'd have to solve this mystery solo,"
she exclaimed, ushering them inside. Over strong black tea, they pooled their knowledge so far about the baffling murder.
"We know Hobo Jeff is innocent but can't prove it,"
Elizabeth recounted. Betty chimed in.
"And the police are dead certain they've got their man."
Samuel had been quiet, but now spoke up.
"Well, did you think of any other clues from Worthington Station? The guy that yelled at us there the other night was nuts."
Elizabeth nodded vigorously and thought about the dream she had last night. Aunt Gracie said there was something dirty going on.
"That's it, the milk truck. He seemed eager to keep us away from that area. And this morning when he dropped off my milk, his rear wheels were caked in mud."
Elizabeth added gravely.
"Might be nothing, but seems worth investigating his movements that night."
Betty leapt up.
"Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go visit him. I still have that flashlight if we need to do some sneaking."
She headed for the door before they could respond. Elizabeth exchanged an amused glance with Samuel. Impulsive as ever, Betty had the right spirit. Elizabeth went into her bedroom and grabbed her father's camera, flashbulb and all. They hurried after her out into the crisp afternoon. The Gabble Dairy Milk Depot was east of the village, near Worthington Station. The trio hailed a Worthington cab on High Street. Driving past the shops and offices that were closed gave the village a feeling of rest after the Sunday services. The cab then turned right on Granville Road. As they drove past the residential streets, families could be glimpsed through front windows, enjoying luncheons and card games. At one home, a father swung his laughing daughter high in the air, while the mother looked on tenderly. Elizabeth felt a pang watching the carefree scene. The further the cab drove from the picturesque village center, the more run-down the buildings became. The Gable Dairy Milk Depot was in a grubby warehouse district by the railway tracks.
Remind me why we go this way again?
Samuel asked wryly, shivering against the chill wind. Betty shushed him as the cab dropped them off outside the depot's faded green loading doors.
Let me do the talking,
she whispered, before hammering on the metal with a gloved fist. The sound reverberated emptily within. Just as Betty was gearing up to pound again, the door creaked open a sliver. A gray-haired man peered out suspiciously.
Can I help you folks?
He asked in a gravelly voice.
Good day, sir. We were hoping to have a word with Mr. Bailey if he's on the premises.
Betty replied brightly. The man's eyes narrowed further.
And what might this be concerning?
Betty improvised hastily.
Well, my two friends here are newlyweds, just moved to town. They wanted to start up milk delivery, but forgot to ask Mr. Bailey about his business hours for new customers.
Elizabeth froze at the words, newlyweds, but Samuel smoothly slipped an arm around her.
Yes, indeed, just hitched last month. But the missus here plumb forgot to get the milkman's schedule for our new home,
he said, with an exaggerated drawl and dopey grin. The gray-haired man replied.
You'd have to ask him yourself. Do you want to have him give you a call?
No, we can send him a letter. Do you happen to know where he lives?
Asked Betty.
Oh, he lives down by the river, just past the high school on the other side of Granville Road. Just look for the Gable Dairy Milk Truck.
Will do, thank you, sir,
replied Samuel. The trio hailed a taxi back to Elizabeth's house. Nightfall provided the perfect cover, as Betty, Samuel, and Elizabeth set out towards Milkman Bailey's home on the edge of town, towards the Olentangy River. Elizabeth brought her father's camera and Aunt Gracie's necklace for luck. Samuel carried the notepad, while Betty brandished her flashlight like a saber.
Remember, quiet as church mice,
Betty whispered loudly as they crept up to Bailey's truck, parked in the drive. The caked mud was still evident on the rear wheels. As they got close to the house, the blinds were pulled down, but the lights were on. On the second floor, they could see the shadows of two people silhouetted behind the blinds. As they got closer, they could hear what sounded like men arguing.
I want my money.
One man was overheard shouting.
I've got your check right here, Bailey.
Another man answered. They didn't want to come anywhere close to the house, but Samuel was scribbling in the notebook, while Betty was illuminating it with her flashlight. Elizabeth just wanted a photo of the milk truck, the driver's side muddy tires, and the rear passenger side tire with no mud. Elizabeth slowly circled the vehicle, camera at the ready. She could see the mud still there, not just on the rear driver's side tire, but also on the front driver's side tire. She focused first on the driver's side muddy tires. The brilliant flash momentarily illuminated the yard. The men in the house still could be heard arguing. Elizabeth focused her camera on a distinct zigzag tread pattern imprinted on the tire without mud. With a silent prayer, she pressed the shutter button. Shielding her eyes from the glare, Betty pointed to the truck's side panel.
Get the make and model, too, on that tire. We need proof it's Bailey's rig.
Nodding, Elizabeth waited for the spots to clear from her vision before taking another blinding shot of the truck details. Samuel dutifully wrote the specifics in a small notebook to corroborate the photographic evidence. Their hearts pounded, pulses racing faster than the time it took to reload the camera flash.
Nice job, my star investigative team,
Samuel joked. but the raised voices carried in the still night. Suddenly, the sounds of the blinds quickly rolling up and the interior lights of the house encompassed the front lawn.
Who's out there?
Yelled a man from inside the house.
Run.
Samuel yelled. The trio sprinted off as the front door slammed open behind them. They didn't dare glance back as they raced for the sanctuary of darkness. The two ladies ran following Samuel.
We can't go towards downtown. Whoever that was will see us. We'll have to hide in the woods. Go towards the river,
said Samuel. Only when they ran into the woods with the glow of the moon appeared did they finally stop, gasping to catch their breath. Peals of exhilarated laughter soon followed between panting breaths.
Do you think they saw us?
Betty wheezed, hands braced on her knees. Elizabeth shook her head, equally winded.
Too dark, but we got what we needed.
She patted her camera triumphantly. Their chuckles subsided as the gravity of their find sank in. The proof was damning. Bailey's truck with the driver's side tires coated in mud. At Worthington Station, she remembered seeing one side of tire tracks in the mud, and then the other side in gravel. This was enough evidence to cast doubt on poor hobo Jeff's guilt. Sobering, they walked slower now, replaying each detail to ensure they missed nothing. The chill night air cooled their flushed cheeks. Elizabeth glimpsed Samuel's profile in the moonlight, strong and handsome. A powerful rush of affection washed over her unexpectedly. He took Elizabeth's hand without thinking to guide them further into the woods. The narrow path was canopied by branches and flooded with silvery light. Elizabeth should have dropped Samuel's hand, but instead held tighter, remembering far different nighttime wooded wanderings from long ago. They slowed further until stopping entirely. All three hushed and alert to the symphony of sounds around them. The relaxing sound of the Olentangy River flowed in the distance. Leaves rustled in the gentle wind with a shivering, silken sound. Elizabeth's eyes had adjusted to the veiled light. She could just make out the contours of Samuel's face as he gazed at her intently. He seemed about to speak when a violent rustling broke the spell. All three whirled towards the noise as branches thrashed violently ahead on the path. A large figure, man or animal, was lumbering straight towards them with an orange glow visible, still obscured by vegetation. Samuel and Betty froze. Years of quick thinking with her students kicked in for Elizabeth. Without hesitating, she scooped up a large fallen branch and hurled it with all her might toward the approaching creature. A resonant thud, followed by a strange yelp, confirmed she had hit her mark. Elizabeth leaped up with her camera in her hands and took the last 2 photos on the camera film with the flash of lightning striking. The unknown person or beast crashed off in the opposite direction, cracking branches growing fainter until they faded away completely. Elizabeth laughed in a release of nervous energy, while Betty whistled appreciatively.
Lizzie's still got that pitcher's arm. What on earth was that thing?
Samuel just shook his head in wonderment at her instinctive act of courage. Their amusement was short-lived, however. A heavy limb snapped, echoing behind them. The person was circling back. Wasting no time, Samuel yelled,
This way, hurry.
pulling Elizabeth off the path into the dense trees. Thorns tore at their clothes and hair as they plunged recklessly into the blackness. Betty's labored wheezing revealed she was close behind. Low-hanging branches whipped Elizabeth's face, but she pressed on, Samuel's hand firm around her hands. At last, the trees thinned ahead, opening to a moonlit field. The meadow's long grasses tangled their feet, but they ran on, no sounds of pursuit behind them now. They ran across Granville Road towards the high school and closer to Elizabeth's house. As their adrenaline ebbed, Betty voiced the question they all pondered.
But what in heaven's name was that? A person or wild beast?
Neither could provide an answer. They assessed themselves for injuries, only minor cuts and scrapes, plus Betty's broken wristwatch. Eventually, catching their breath, the chase seemed more and more surreal. Had it been an elaborate prank? Too weary to ponder further, they continued through into the village. Nearly safe, they began to relax, till a strange glow ahead almost sent them ducking behind bushes. But it was only the moon rising over Worthington's water tower's eastern skyline. Betty determinedly led the way before breaking the tense silence.
Let's not fret or make wild guesses. We'll take this slowly and scientifically. Elizabeth, you'll need to get those photos developed and analyzed.
Samuel and Elizabeth nodded, comforted by her rationality. But chills still rippled through Elizabeth, picturing the hulking silhouette that had barreled towards them. What had they stumbled into? Elizabeth paused, struck by its idyllic beauty, bathed in autumn light. Seeing her gaze, Samuel dared to take her hand again.
No monsters here,
he murmured. Elizabeth managed a smile, feeling the truth in his words. A return of hope punctured the fear and doubt that had shrouded her for so long. Whatever unknowns lay ahead on their quest, she knew with certainty she did not walk alone. With Samuel, Betty, and even dear Aunt Gracie's spirit beside her, the light would prevail.
Thank you for listening to Underlying Love, a Worthington, Ohio mystery. Now that Elizabeth has evidence of a vehicle at Worthington Station, how will she use the photos and information they collected to clear Hobo Jeff's name? Will Elizabeth and Samuel's growing affection for each other impact their investigation and personal lives? And will Betty find her missing Jell-O recipe? Find out more in the next exciting episode, Chapter 7, Part 1, Trick or Fright.